Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever noticed how our society just seems to automatically reward the absolute loudest person in the room? I mean, think about your last big meeting or even a classroom discussion. The person who speaks first and usually the loudest almost always gets the most credit, right? Well, today we're unpacking exactly why that happens and why it might actually be a massive mistake. Because as you'll see, history tells us a very different story. Let's kick things off by really challenging one of our fundamental assumptions. Does being the loudest in the room actually make you the smartest or the most capable? Take Rosa Parks, for example. History describes her as a timid, genuinely shy woman. Yet her single, incredibly quiet no on a segregated bus in Montgomery ignited one of the most important civil rights protests of the 20th century. She didn't need to shout to be a profound leader. Her quiet fortitude literally changed the world. And that perfectly brings us to the core of today's explainer. We are diving into the meticulous research presented in Susan Cain's absolutely groundbreaking book, Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. This book completely dismantles the myth that being loud automatically equals being strong. It's a deep dive into the hidden power of the introverted personality, especially in a culture that, well, simply can't stop talking. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter to you directly? Well, get this. It's estimated that anywhere from a third to a whopping 50% of Americans are introverts. That is 1 out of every 2 or 3 people you know. You're either an introvert yourself, or you're managing, married to, or raising one. So understanding this dynamic isn't just some niche psychological concept. It's absolutely crucial for navigating our daily relationships and really unlocking the potential of the people around us. So let's do a quick check. Where do you personally fall on this spectrum? Ask yourself, do you prefer one-on-one conversations over big groups? Do you actively enjoy your solitude? Do people tell you that you're a really good listener? Do you tend to think pretty carefully before you speak? If you're nodding along right now, you likely lean introverted. And remember, introversion isn't misanthropy, and it's not a fear of people. It's simply a biological preference for less stimulating environments. But here's the crazy part. Despite making up half the population, so many introverts feel forced to hide their true nature. Why? Well, because we live under what's known as the extrovert ideal. It is this omnipresent, heavy belief that the ideal self is gregarious, alpha, and perfectly comfortable bathing in the spotlight. Under this value system, introversion, along with being sensitive or serious, is treated as a second-class trait. We are constantly told that to be great, you simply must be bold and outgoing. So how on earth did we arrive at this extrovert ideal? Let's rewind a bit. Back in 1840, only 8% of Americans lived in cities. People lived on farms, working alongside lifelong neighbors. But as America rapidly urbanized in the early 20th century, citizens morphed into employees. Suddenly, you were surrounded by strangers. You couldn't just rely on your family's solid reputation anymore. You had to sell yourself. This paved the way for folks like Dale Carnegie, who went from a poor farm boy to a massive public speaking icon by 1913, teaching businessmen how to project confidence. By the 1920s, perfectly normal social anxieties were actually being pathologized by psychologists as an inferiority complex. This sparked a massive, fundamental historical shift. We literally moved from a 19th century culture of character, where things like citizenship, duty, and honor were paramount, and what really mattered was how you behaved in private, straight into a 20th century culture of personality. The new ideal buzzwords became magnetic, fascinating, dominant, and forceful. We transformed into a society completely captivated by bold, entertaining performers rather than quiet, disciplined thinkers. Fast forward to today, and to see this extrovert ideal in action, look no further than the self-help industry. Just think of Tony Robbins and his high-octane Unleash the Power Within seminars. It is a massive spectacle. Thousands of people, jumping, dancing at a top 40 music, and even willingly walking barefoot across incredibly hot coals just to prove their boundless energy. It's quite literally extroversion on steroids, pitched to us as the ultimate blueprint for success. During these exercises, Robbins actually instructs his participants to practice introducing themselves with such aggressive force that if the other person doesn't do business with them, well, everyone you care about will die like pigs in hell. I mean, that is intense. But it perfectly highlights how the modern culture of personality frames almost every social encounter as a high-stakes performance. You're told you absolutely must exude vibrant, assertive confidence just to survive out there. And this same hyper-extroversion is completely institutionalized in corporate America too. Take Harvard Business School, which one graduate actually called the spiritual capital of extroversion. At HBS, students are graded heavily on how forcefully they participate in class discussions. The curriculum inherently rewards those who speak firmly and act decisively, even when they don't have all the facts. If you talk often and confidently, you're a player. If you listen and reflect, you are marginalized. To see how this can genuinely backfire, let's look at a really fascinating game they play at Harvard called the Subarctic Survival Situation. A group imagines they've crash-landed in the subarctic. They have to salvage 15 items and rank them in order of importance for survival, first individually and then as a team. The goal is to see if the team's combined ranking beats any individual's ranking, which is basically a test to teach group synergy. The results of this game, honestly, kind of devastating. One student realized his group completely failed because the loudest, most confident talkers completely drowned out a quiet classmate who actually had extensive real-world experience in the Northern Backwoods. The group blindly followed the forceful speakers right over a cliff, ignoring the quiet expertise that could have literally saved them. This hits the nail on the head regarding a dangerous flaw in our society. We routinely equate fast, loud talking with high intelligence and leadership capability. And this naturally leads to disastrous groupthink. The U.S. Army actually has a term for this dynamic, the bus to Abilene. It's this phenomenon where a group just blindly follows the initiator of an action simply because it was confidently proposed. Everyone hops on the bus even if nobody actually thinks it's a good idea, all because the loudest voice took charge and no one stopped to reflect. Society almost always perceives the fast, highly visible loud talker as the natural leader over the careful, analytical, quiet thinker. But research tells us a completely different story. There is absolutely zero scientific correlation between the gift of gab and actually having good ideas. None. In fact, studies show that highly confident, loud television pundits actually make worse predictions than random chance. It turns out flipping a coin is sometimes more accurate than listening to the loudest person in the room. In reality, the data shows something fascinating about corporate success. Management theorist Jim Collins studied the highest-performing companies of the late 20th century. He found that they were consistently run by what he coined level 5 leaders. And guess what? These exceptional CEOs were not the flashy, charismatic, extroverted giants you might expect. They were unassuming, mild-mannered, reserved, and sometimes even incredibly shy. These level 5 leaders share a unique, powerful set of traits. They have a quiet and modest demeanor. They listen far more than they assert. They empower their subordinates to take initiative, and they build the institution rather than their own egos. Take Darwin Smith, who quietly but fiercely transformed Kimberly-Clark into a global paper powerhouse. Or consider a highly successful, introverted U.S. Air Force wing commander who leads thousands of personnel, not by shouting orders, but by deep listening and empowering his team's absolute best ideas. So the overarching takeaway from this explainer is crystal clear. The power of introverts is real, it's historically proven, and it is absolutely essential for balance. Our world desperately needs both the athletes and the philosophers. Yes, we need the outgoing, energetic salespeople, but we equally need the careful, quiet inventors. We lose an incredible amount of human potential when we force everyone into this one-size-fits-all extrovert ideal. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder as you navigate your own workplace and relationships. Next time you are in a meeting, take a second, look around the room, and ask yourself, are we genuinely following the best ideas here, or are we just following the loudest voices? Pay close attention to the quiet thinkers in the room. They might just hold the exact answer you've been looking for. Thanks so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.